All right, we're gonna get this. Just we're gonna wait till we have everybody come in. So hopefully we can get this going in about a minute or so. Cool. Wow. Everybody. This is my first live. So hopefully everything goes well. Technically, gonna give people maybe another 1 or 2 minutes to hop in. We'll start at 12:35 because I speak relatively quick. So we will start around that time. Um, if you guys are looking forward to me covering any topics, please throw it down in the comments down below as we get through the slides and the conversation. Very excited to talk about this topic of systems. I'll also do some shout outs if anybody does some comments in the comment section. What a great Monday. There we go. We got a couple more people coming in. People probably getting notifications and everything. Like, what? There's a LinkedIn Live. So as people start coming in, everybody going to be starting around 12:35, and we will take it off from there. Hopefully everybody is having a great Monday so far. It's Monday afternoon here. Everybody's probably on their lunch break if they're in in sales or business development. It's always important to take a break. But hope you guys are having a great day and that it will definitely turn into an even better afternoon and evening for sure. Also, for everybody who has my personal information, would definitely appreciate it if we can keep the chat for this little presentation in the chat on LinkedIn. I have a million screens up and running already, and it doesn't necessarily help. It doesn't necessarily help to. Oh, let's see if that you event is this live on. Is this live on LinkedIn? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's live on LinkedIn. This is a very weird setup that LinkedIn has. It doesn't show that I'm live on my platform that I'm using to stream. Very weird. Actually, and I will do this because I'm not really sure how this is working. But I see 7 people. I see 5 people. So we're just going to get this going in about a minute. 12:35. We are expected to roll, as I've just said. So. And in the event that there's any technical difficulties, please let me know as soon as possible in the chat or somehow. Would definitely appreciate it. Want to make sure that this is staying as efficient as possible, trying to value everybody's time. Cool. All right. Well, it's 12:35 and I am going to switch over. Great. Well, welcome everybody to the boring part of sales development. You'll see me go back and forth between a couple monitors, so just know that I will try to keep in mind to look at the camera when it makes sense. But my presentation's over here for today. But welcome to the boring part of sales development, systems and philosophies to long-term success or gradual failure. And so I think this is a great topic for this time of year. The year is winding down. Everybody's kind of reviewing their performance in the rearview window, and they may be thinking, okay, well, did I have a great year? Everything that's been going on with COVID, performance, depending on what sector you're either selling or doing business development, what no regardless of where you are profession wise, it's always good to kind of look at the year and rewind and see, could you have done something better? What could have that something better been? And most of the time it's your system to how you approach your work, and it's the system in which you approach, in this example, sales and business development. And so we're going to go right into this, but there's one more idea I actually had. So I thought this was a good idea for, obviously, just looking back at your year and rewind, but also looking forward and what we can do better as sales business professionals going forward, especially for people who are new in sales and business development or sales, full cycle sales management. This really applies to everybody across the board. So, this is a brief overview of systems and philosophies that I've gathered throughout my sales experience throughout the years, along with stuff I've learned, things I've implemented in other things I've been involved with. But this is something that I wanted to start off the presentation with: systems and philosophies to long-term success or gradual failure, signifying that when we don't think about the way in which we conduct our business with a system, with something that we know that works and it works efficiently. And not only does it work efficiently, but it works efficiently to our goals, to the goals of the company that we're working for, and that it serves that vision long term to what we want for ourselves in life. So, without further ado, we're going to go to the next slide. So, this is a little quote that I thought of while making this presentation. Whether you know it or not, you are guiding yourself by a system you inadvertently created, either by consequence or by purpose. See, there's a lot that companies and organizations will supply for you, but the one thing that they won't supply is your own effort and energy into creating your own flow of doing what you do. And so, for example, if it's sales or business development, a company is going to outline their A, B, and C's. They're going to show you everything that they want you to do to a T. But does that necessarily mean that that's going to work for you 100%? Is that overlay, when you overlay what the company wants to give to you, does that work for you? And that's what we're going to talk about today, because it's very easy to get overwhelmed when you're first, at least starting in these roles, and as you tenure through business development and sales experience, you're going to start to realize that, yeah, like, you're going to pick up on things that work, that don't work. And this is more of a refresher course for those veterans out there who aren't green peas, who are more seasoned. But this is also really fantastic for if you're just getting into the sales and business world and you're kind of trying to feel out, a good approach, a system, or an outlook of how to see sales and business, how to conduct yourself within your day to day and within those qualitative experiences with your clients and with your organization. This is for you. And so, I start off with a great quote, which pretty much outlines that if you don't intentionally create a system for yourself, you're going to relapse on either what your company provides for you, which is, again, as you'll see in my slides, I totally want you to follow what your organization gives to you, the sales process, whatever it is. But by being proactive in how you are with that company's rubric for their version of the success for that company, melding those together is what's really going to drive that, and some other things. Okay, so who is this for? I kind of talked about it a little bit. This is for anybody who's in sales, business development. Everybody's technically in sales, management, consultants, self-employed individuals, especially because you're doing it all yourself. Creating a system for yourself when it's just you, super important. You have students, so prospective students who are looking to get into anything that's going to involve a system, a process, sales, business development, this is something that you should probably take a look at just to give you an idea of what's involved in sales and business development day to day, and creating and really working on those systems or familiarizing yourself with these systems that are going to give you the long-term success no matter what you do in life, to be honest. In other fields that may be interested in this, just knowing how sales works and what's in the mindset of a sales representative or business development representative, and kind of like the inside scoop of what our focus is or what our focus should be. Um, and throughout this presentation, I am going to highlight a lot of different things, but I'm very big on philosophy, and so you'll see that most of this applies to a lot of people because the philosophy that I displace in the presentation remains the same. So, what this is and isn't. So, this is a beginner's introduction to understanding systems as it pertains to sales, business development, and connecting areas such as workflow, organization, client, and collaborative relationships. So, this kind of takes a look at all different elements of the process and who corresponds with you in that system that you create for yourself day to day that creates your success. This is a guide that outlines how one can approach creating their own sales and business systems. So if you're not familiar with how to create your own system or what that typically entails, well, then this is going to be a pretty good refresher for you. This is not a one size fits all guaranteed model for developing your own system for sales and business development. Like I mentioned earlier, this is just a refresher for veterans and an inside scoop to for newbies in the area of sales and business development, people who are really looking to level up their game or refresh their game, looking into the future, looking at the past, and seeing what you can do better. This is not an overview on sales business development systems, how they operate, and how they. This is an overview on sales business development systems, how they operate, and how they can function successfully. So there's a lot of do's and don'ts to your sales business process and cycle. And so we're going to take a look at what's important, what's valuable, what's not valuable, and what to do from there. Okay, and so what you'll learn: identify your own system and process. I go a lot of I do go over a lot of generalizations on my slides just because they're talking points, but I will discuss more verbally the different things that I'm emphasizing within the slides. So just please keep that in mind. And if you want me to send you anything, just reach out to me, and I will be happy to start a conversation of something that you're interested in learning about. So identify your systems and processes, discover challenge areas and strengths, understand sales business development systems as well as the ones placed around you, create systems and processes, how to audit and solve current systems. And so pretty much that's just saying, you have your current system in place, which we all know that you have something going on, but whether or not that's the best, we're gonna take a look at what that looks like, reevaluating it. And so the overall focus of this presentation and this event today is to, create some kind of result, some kind of new effort moving forward, some kind of deliverables in its own way that you can use to implement in your own day-to-day business and sales cycle, something that you can take away from. So the result for this is hopefully this puts you more on the path of consistently and effectively producing quality work, meeting performance and organizational expectations. Because you have goals, your organization has goals, and when you combine those, they do work out, and they can work out. Even though sometimes it can look a little fuzzy sometimes when you're just kind of caught in the day to day. So the dimensions of a sales business system. And so when I say sales and business system, when I just say system in general, what I'm referring to is the day-to-day, what you do between the client, your organization, and you. And that's kind of three main things. You have your sales and business development, right? You have your sales cycle, your business development cycle. You have you, which is the driving force of it all, right? If you're just working for yourself, or you're working as like a sales representative with no directs underneath you. So you have sales biz dev, you, and workflow, and that's just your day-to-day tasks that are within those other two systems, which is really important to notate because your company will give you a sales or business model to go off of, and they'll give you indicators and metrics, but they most of the time won't really give you the tools. Well, they will give you tools, but they won't really show you the way. You got to figure out your own flow. And this is kind of, again, like I said, this is going to basically go over that flow along with the other processes and systems, and for you to find some kind of happy medium and balance, right? And so going back to the sales business development, it's your organization's system for navigating in sales business development, the client, other parties like management departments. So there's a lot of other people involved with your day to day. And so this kind of takes that all into consideration. The workflow and you are kind of self-explanatory, but I actually really do want to emphasize that a lot of what you do is supported and given energy by your ambitions, your vision, your purpose, your goals. So it's really important to know why you're doing what you're doing on a very deep level. And so this obviously isn't going to cover that aspect of life and purpose, but I definitely encourage people to know your why, to harness your why, so that it makes a lot of your day-to-day tasks within these systems more manageable. So why follow a sales system? Adhering to a sales system allows you to do the following: consistently grow your sales and business. Who wouldn't want that? Clearly identify and define your expectations in terms of performance. And so, nobody would likes to, or I would hope nobody would like to operate, not knowing the trajectory that they're going. And so having a system clearly helps you define that route and shows you, brings out the unknowns of that information, of that performance that you're doing. Achieve a desired result or goal, operating within known variables, a plan, a strategy, actions you can clearly see and operate with. It's great to know thyself, but it's also great to know your business and sales system and what's expected of you, what you're going to be doing day to day. Not necessarily, for all those people out there who don't like to do routine and consistency, but having a system that you at least follow in some capacity that's stable and consistent is going to lead you to all these benefiting factors. So setting the expectations for third parties, management clients, and intermediaries that intersect with your systems and process. So beyond your workflow, beyond your sales, beyond your role, you have a lot of different um, individuals, parties, stakeholders, as they're also referred to as, people like maybe in like a service portion, or support or account management role department in your organization. There may be many departments that intersect with what you do, and this is also to factor them and consider them into your sales and your sales and business process, just your system in general. And we're going to get a little bit more into that later. The effects of not following a system. The client, almost the most important person in terms of your role specifically, right? If you're client facing or your performance is contingent on working with other individuals, right? Inconsistent experience, poor service, unclear sales process, all those things there emphasize the fact that when you neglect your own system that doesn't struck like organizationally or prioritize the most important things like clients, organization, and you. If you don't balance those things out, the client is going to experience that in that sales process or business development process. And we'll get more into how to make that better later on in this presentation. But when you don't have a system, your client suffers and the organization suffers as well. Beyond you and your lack of performance, not serving the client, which is, as a result of that, you lose more deals, or you don't perform as well. The organization loses out on its own earnings, right? The organization doesn't really know what to expect from you. It's like kind of like you become in this like ambiguous, run of the mill kind of representative, right? To have visibility with a system, to to work with the system and bring out those unknowns like the previous slide, the organization gets to see you, see your role and see what you're doing with clarity. And they can clearly see, okay, Jill Smith is, performing, XYZ over time, and her performance is consistent and growing, and so there's expectations that are there. And when you don't have a system, not only does it affect the slippage of your time, resources, and profits, but it affects the organizations as well. And that may be directly more felt from your direct management. Sometimes even higher up, even upper management will talk to you about that as well. But most of the time, that if you'll really see the organization through your manager, and that's very important to know. Um, Tenure uncertainty, if you're looking to grow within the company, that becomes a little bit, again, a little bit more ambiguous if you don't have your stuffs, your systems in order. Low confidence equals high pressure equals smaller margin for error. Pretty self explanatory, but they can't have confidence in your ability, if you don't have your own system to be reliable and to be dependable. And hierarchical slippage. So within that organization, not only does it start with you, but it ends with almost everybody from your level all up top. You directly affect everybody in your organization with your performance, even if it's not felt by you directly, and that may affect the relationships that you have, that trickle out into your organization. And this directly affects you by not having a system in the most obvious of ways. Time and income, right? Your income suffers for having a lack of a system, regardless of however you build that system to be, right? Because the whole point of the system is to achieve your goals, whatever they may be. Most of the people that are in sales and business development, they are hunting for income. And so it's directly going to affect your income and your time, because you're not managing your time as efficiently as if you had a system. Emotional and physical, not having a system to balance out certain key parts of systems that you don't like and do like, without having and balancing out the different components of the system you operate in. It's very easy to fall short of that awareness of how we are affected by our day to day. And without really looking at what we do day to day, we seldom think of what really causes our emotional and physical health. And so that's something that, is a really big deal, because people get burnout. And how does burnout happen? Burnout happens with mismanagement of time, your energy, and the system that you have in place. And your vision and goals, right? Without having your system, this smaller thing that you use day to day, it wouldn't be serving your overall plan for your future, whatever that may be. So, all really important things of why to have a system. Who it affects. So, as I've mentioned, the sales system that you utilize serves your organization, you and the clients, organization. And so I kind of talked a little bit more about this, but on a more deeper level, not only does your performance of systems affects you in your emotions, but it also affects the people closest to you, family and friends, and your coworkers, right? Clients, this directly affects your clients or prospects. Your quality of prospecting, business development, and sales process flow and sales cycle directly affects the client, their interpretation of your company and you, and whether or not they want to sign up for whatever goods and services that you're either trying to sell or providing, or whatever the situation may be. So we're going to continue on to the next slide. But before I do, this is a good one that I had written down. Without a balanced system, these three pillars cannot be supported consistently with quality or with purpose. A system or approach that does not address these pillars is not a working solution. And as a result, these pillars will be neglected at some point over time. And so you want to keep in mind that, as a sales representative, business development representative, anybody who may pertain to this kind of system and utilizing this kind of system, you're responsible for these. indirectly or directly responsible for the experiences of these three different areas. And so that's kind of important to know, to understand that, you have responsibility over people outside yourself when you're foregoing these processes. So why it matters, helps you get to your why. Having a system helps you get to your vision, your overall goal, your the overall goals and purpose for yourself. Having a system just gets you faster, gets you there faster, and helps you become the person that you want to become for those goals, for those purposes and visions. Foster a sense of uncertainty for the short and long term. Systems help you obtain goals, reduce negative emotions, avoid burnout, work life balance. Kind of emphasized these already, but all very good reasons to consider, reviewing your system. What makes a system great? So you have your system in place, you have your sales system flow, you have your business development flow, you have your typical workflow day to day. So, how can you make it better? Or what makes a new system that you would think about changing great, right? Business development or sales process created by your organization. That's something that's offered to you. And typically, what your company offers to you, whether it's a sales, um, whether it's a sales system that they provide for you, a talk track, whatever kind of system they provide for you, typically they've done tons of research and studies and internal research that is one of the best, if not the best way to do sales, and in terms of how it fits their organization's needs and how it fits their mission as a company. So utilize what your company gives you. Tools that address most systems, tasks, actions, right? Technology is your friend. Websites are your friend, like platforms that help you with your day-to-day flow. Um, Anything that enhances the customer or client experience, your experience, any kind of tool or resource that can bring maybe collaborations together. All those things create a better quality experience, and if done correctly, they will make the day-to-day of your systems easier. And how that would look is, maybe you'll find a platform where you're looking to, you know follow your leads. You have like staged leads in your sales cycle, but you're spending a lot of time with figuring out where these leads are in their stages in your pipeline, what to do for next steps. And then maybe you're also looking to build these same clients, and if you're looking for an all-in-one kind of vibe, where you feel like there's just so many different tools that are being used, where they could have been, maybe there's a tool out there where it fits them all into one spot and it saves you, 10, 15, 20 minutes of time a day. you know you know Being resourceful and looking for those right tools can save you a ton. So maybe, one of my suggestions for before the new year starts is review the tools that you currently use. Write a list down of all of the different challenge areas you have, and just Google search, see if there's a tool out there. Odds are there is, and maybe it might fit your needs, maybe it won't. So beyond that, we have having your systems evaluated regularly for effectiveness. We're going to be getting into that later as well. Automation, which is kind of what I briefly kind of emphasized with tools, but automating the tasks and administrative work as much as you can to save you time is going to give you more time to the higher priority tasks of your day, and the higher priority tasks within your systems that you want to get to, right? You have to remember that the more time you have for those higher priority tasks in those systems, the greater your customer experience is going to the greater experience your customers will have, or your clients will have. So the more time you have, the more effective it's going to be in terms of quality, for your clients. And understand the current systems and their averaging results. Something that's also really important to know is, within your organization, within the people, within the sales team that you're either working with directly, or maybe the broader scope of the sales team for the company. What systems do other people use? what are the averaging results of those systems? How many people are really following that system to a T? What, feeling out what others are doing, and then reviewing and comparing your system compared to that is also a very big deal. Um, so understanding current systems, that's kind of like a definite, and that's also going to be later on in the slides. What and how to compare what's currently in place versus you entering the scene, and how you do your sales and business dev systems. So how is it working, or how is it working? um, so consistent growth quarterly, annually. So this is how you would probably want to track whether your system is working or not. um, you would typically see this within qualitative and quantitative review. Work stays at work, not bring it to home. You know that your system isn't working if you have to work outside of work, right? Where those lines are being blurred, and you're creating a deficit of workload, or just a deficit of performance, and then you have to compensate. Non-existent work pressure. Um, so you know that you have a good system when nobody's talking to you about your system, about what you're doing, about your approach, about your customer service performance, if you do get one of those. Um, you won't see micromanaging, and you won't have performance reviews. And when you have one-on-ones with your direct management, or whoever you have one-on-ones with, it's going to be next steps focused, meaning it's not going to be about what you're currently, uh, it's not going to be on um, system oriented one-on-ones, meaning like quality experiences, the things that you could be lacking in your system. It's going to be more directly focused on, okay, cool, it seems like you have everything. You have all your systems are set up, your performance is there, you're cruising, you're doing your job well. What are the next steps for you? Minimal cross department interjections, meaning that your system is taking into consideration all the stakeholders of the company in a way that it doesn't involve other people to have slippage in the organization. And so that when they look at the work that you're doing, there's nothing to really kind of jump in and fix, right? You're kind of on it in terms of compliance with other departments, what they need, taking them into consideration. Coworkers request feedback or advice, and monetary gain. Pretty self-explanatory. So how to audit your system. And so when we think about auditing the current system you have now, right, you have to think about these different areas, right? Write out your current system. First, you have to know what your system is. And so drawing it out in a visual board probably really helps. I use Excel sheets, but for you, you may want to just write it out and kind of just see your flow. And within writing it out, write out all the actions that you commit within those systems, right? Who are the participants? Who's involved in your day to day, right? And what do they need from you in those collaborations? What are the requirements, from you within your system, within your goals for what you do, right? And that's performance, tasks, duties, processes, and other systems, and parameters like time, like compliance, company events, and other company obligations. Write out your organization's system and process to compare. So you write out what you're currently doing, and then you write out what's expected or what they've outlined you to do within the organization, and you see either how much you're following or not. You're following that system, and how you can adopt maybe more beneficial tasks and things into your system. Um, and so this is a simplified version. Once you have all these things written down, and this should be like a pretty like detailed list. You should have something like maybe 40 to 50 plus different tasks, right? This is the simplified version, but just write out like 1 to 10, how likely do you want to do these tasks? The require, how often, how willing, um, you know, all the different variables of these actions. Write down, go from a 1 to a 10, and that's going to actually give you a really good starting point to where your trouble areas are. And when I say trouble areas, I'm really more emphasizing that the trouble areas are more the areas that you just don't like to focus on, versus the areas that you love to do, right? And so, the whole goal of, writing out tasks and kind of going through your whole like system through a fine-tooth comb. The main reason we do this is so we can mitigate the risk of and manage the risk of not getting to your performance and your objectives, right? Whatever they may be. When you can clearly see, and obviously we know generally what we do and don't do, but when we really specifically write it out and write really what is required within this system, and you sweep the whole thing, then that really allows you to, start from a place of, okay, well, and then just also being really honest with yourself, start to build a system that can work, and then go from there. Now, I will emphasize that, everybody's different and we're all going to like different things, and so I think it's important that as you develop these systems, being resourceful in the right ways for who you are is the most efficient way of doing things. If you don't like doing something, find the easiest and most efficient way to do it that's not directly involved with you, whatever that looks like. And most importantly, tracking this over time, making sure that you track the month to month and the year to year, you know evaluating over time your progress on your system of refining it and seeing if it works or not. That's really the whole goal here, is to make sure that your workflow and your day to day has a system where it takes care of you, and that you don't have to do anything beyond that when you leave work, or leaving work at home. Evaluate organization, team management, and prospects. So when thinking about your system, a really good place to come from is kind of what I've emphasized earlier. Taking in consideration the organization that you're working for, their culture, their expectations, their goals, mission, and vision year to year. Your team, either direct or indirect, the bigger team of the company, their effectiveness, collaborations that you have with them, utilizing your team, getting support from your team, or supporting them, and culture. Not only do you have your day to day with what you do, but some companies are more culture focused. And so if you're in a company, whether it's culture or not culture focused, there is some level of participation with teams. Management, participation, expectation, support, and goals. Management participates in a certain way with you, expects particular things from you, supports you, and helps you get to your goals, and has their own goals, right? So thinking about, what your management is looking for in terms of your performance, and what's expected from you. Um, and prospects, as we mentioned, evaluate your prospects, the people that you work with day to day, the people that you're serving, the clients that you are, providing quality service for, whether it's a product or service. um, Thinking about how all of these different parties interact with your system will clearly indicate, and it'll clearly indicate, from, like, again, from a 1 to a 10, how much of your focus is on the quality of these different parties in your system as they go through it. And so this is the bigger picture. And I know it's if you're seeing this on a phone, it's probably not the easiest to see. But as I mentioned, I posted a link, in the info description, so you have access to this slide. But essentially, you have three different things happening at once. Three different, I would say two different systems, three different systems. But then you also have company system requirements, right? And so, our goal, being in business development or sales, Our goal is to kind of juggle all three of these depending on what your role kind of provides. And so this is just a general outline on business and sales development. Business development is in the gray squares where it says training, admin, review, prospecting, qualifying, filtering, and staging your leads, and eventually creating opportunities. Underneath there, we have research and quality, research and qualify, outreach, opportunity, meeting intro, needs discovery. So this just kind of outlines the whole sales process, even going past the sale to account management. And then at the top here in the circle, we have company system requirements, business development, sales process, administrative work, deliverables, your performance, company events and just events in general, meetings and trainings. So there's a lot to juggle. There's a lot to fit in into your day to day, and it's important to develop a system that can get all of these in within a timely manner, that in a way where you're utilizing your energy in a way where it focuses on your role, whether it's sales or business development, and then based off of that prioritization, if you create your system wisely, you have enough energy to actually handle everything or mostly everything, plus or minus, right? And so I'll leave this up here for another minute for all of you guys that want to take notes or just see it and just kind of digest it for a second. And I'm going to also use this time to take a quick pause. I don't think I've seen anybody. I don't think I've seen anybody come in on some questions, but if anybody does have questions, I'll take this time right now to kind of just out. And if you want to ask a question on LinkedIn or whatever, I'm just going to take a second while people take a look at this. Sorry, there's so much information to get to, guys. But we're almost done, I feel like. I think we're either halfway. I think this is actually where the halfway mark is ish. So we're doing pretty good on time. All right, so we're going to continue. Okay, refining with data. Feedback looping. Feedback looping, crowdsourcing, and performance review. So, three really great ways to figure out the information that you need in order to, um, in order, getting the information that you need in order to make those changes, right? Like, where does that information come from? So the information comes from feedback looping, crowdsourcing, and performance review, reacting to system variables, and within this reaction, making changes to the system, which is really just a fancy way of saying, you're going to have your system and then you're going to see what clearly doesn't work and then fix it. And then the system goes on and then you fix it gradually as you move forward through time. Crowdsourcing can come from a number of sources. Crowdsourcing can be coworkers and management, asking your coworkers and management, what systems they use, asking for their input on yours, friends and family, polling and surveys, clients and prospects. Something that I actually used to do when I was in full cycle sales was I would actually give out, upon agreement with a client, I would say, hey, listen, I really enjoyed working with you. Would you be open to answering a survey about your experience with me, in this sales process? And then they would do it, and they would share with me, obviously, what they thought, what they expected. And so getting that information is very, very useful because it's feedback into your system, and it's validating or invalidating whether or not your system is working in key areas. And performance review, right? Obviously, we have the quantitative performance review where you're reviewing your numbers and you're seeing, well, did I hit quota? Did I not hit quota? Am I doing it? Am I doing great at my job or not? And odds are, if you're not happy or satisfied by the end of the month with your role, or sorry, with your performance, then odds are, your system may need some work and fine tuning, and that's okay. But the qualitative is where that maybe comes in, right? Reviewing the, reviewing the current systems, and taking into consideration the expected goals. Um, you know, Thinking about your system in terms of, first one, is it serving is it serving the purpose that I intended it to have? Meaning, is it meeting my goals? Is it meeting my own expectations? Is it doing what I need it to do? Right? Whatever your goals and values may be, very important, because when you look at it in terms of qualitative over quantitative, even if the quantitative is suffering, if your qualitative is there, then technically the system is still working, right? So you need to have, obviously, both of these two, quantitative and qualitative, performing pretty well. But the qualitative, in my opinion, is the more important one. That's the more you focused one. Whatever those expected goals are. And then you also have, like, company specific scoring that they may provide for you. Some companies provide some form of indicator for metrics that they care about, and value. And so it's important to take those into consideration and why you may not be performing in those indicators. Cool. Oh, we're actually there. We're totally at the end almost. And I was there just enough time for Q&A. Okay, cool. So some philosophies that I had for you guys: relationships for life, think long term. So when you work with, whether it's prospecting or relationship building with clients, if you consider clients and prospects people that you'll know forever, people that you'd always want to have a relationship with, it's just the sales process, the business development process. It feels different for them because they feel more valued in a different kind of way. When you consider a relationship for life, it's literally telling your prospect or client, hey, this isn't just a one-off sale. I really do care about the development and nurturing of our friendship or our business relationship going forward, right? And so that social currency, that social value, putting that into your clients, it speaks a lot. It shows that you're just not it differentiates you from everybody else doing what you do. Utilizing your why for energy, momentum, and balance, right? When you get up and you go to work every day, and you in your role, whether it's biz, sales dev, whatever it may be, if your why isn't somehow integrated into what you're doing, then you're not really maximizing on the energy that you really could be leveraging for what you do. If your goal is to, I don't know, own an island, and what you're currently doing now is, the path to that route, and it's in sales, right? To get to have that island. Well, then, you know what? Imagine waking up every day, saying to yourself, "Yeah, I'm gonna get that island, and this role is how I get there." That brings a different kind of energy, and a different kind of humility and respect to yourself, and to what you want. Acknowledging what your vision and goals they're directly going to influence your experience day to day. They're going to influence your energy towards what you do. And so when you have a bigger purpose beyond the day to day, beyond the micro actions that you have, which, believe me, I know it can get very, you know I can see how a lot of people can, lose sight of their purpose and vision. Remember, like, maybe have a little bit of reminders throughout the day. But if there's some way that you can recognize and remember, why you're doing what you're doing, that's the energy that drives the results. Start with a fixed time and work with that. If you say, hey, I'm going to work from this time to this time, you know work backwards and say to yourself, this is the only time that I'm going to work, and I have to figure out within this time frame how I'm going to make it all happen, right? And so, if you're already in that kind of place, and that's what brought you to, this little event, then you're already on your way, because you're like already telling yourself, hey, going forward, I want to use this time, and I want to use this time as most effectively as I can, with the best quality service and experience for my clients and prospects, right? That's it's a good philosophy to have, and that's why I wrote it down. Your system reflects you, and so your system and your performance is a direct reflection of what you're bringing to the table. Like I said, it's your energy, and if you're, things like not utilizing your why affects that. But your system reflects you, and so if you're not satisfied with your own work, and others aren't satisfied with your own work, well then, hey, maybe it's time to change things up. Success is contingent on what you do and how you do it. Pretty straightforward. Do not let the day dictate your actions. Create a morning routine that elicits positivity, energy, stimulation, mindset, and vision. Right? When you start your day, that's typically the vibe that gets you throughout the whole day. And so if you don't set yourself up early with the right energy, with the right mindset, with the right vision in mind, then that's going to it's going to reverberate, or I guess trickle or ripple into the whole day, into the future, with that energy. And so I always try to catch it quick and make sure that I'm starting off the day on a high note, with the tasks at hand for the day. Create a morning routine that elicits all of that, and being resourceful. Being resourceful is a skill, and partially why we lack in whatever it may be in life is just because we're not resourceful enough. Resourcefulness is a skill, and I think that the more we focus on resourcefulness with creating systems that that can serve us, finding the tools that can save us on the little things, because the little things do add up. That's going to translate to better quality work and better performance. And that's all I got for you guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Oh, here we go. Hey, it's Gage. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm going to do some Q&A now. We got 7 minutes before this gets turned off, if anybody has any questions after that. But I'll answer Gage's questions. How do you develop a system that doesn't turn into time? Actually, can I don't even know if I can post it. I can't. But Gage Smith says, how do you develop a system that doesn't turn into time saved using your system, turning into the system eating up that saved time? That's a good question. I actually have to read that again. How do you develop a system that doesn't turn into time saved? Maybe reword that. I'm trying to follow. Turning into the system eating up that saved time. So I think the question is either saying, if you save all this time, how do we make sure that that time is actually used towards bettering the system? I think that's what he's saying. In which case, this is kind of what I emphasized earlier, where I kind of outlined, when you save this time and you write out all these tasks of what you need to do, how to, in terms of what defines your sales and business process, right? When you write out those 40 to 100 little details, right? And you save the time from the things that you save time on those tasks, then you look at the trouble areas, right? It's up to your discretion. If you have a couple areas that are like 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10, and they're like in the early, in one part of the process, the next go-to thing is to, okay, cool. I saved 30 minutes on my schedule by consolidating some tools, and now my stuff's more automated. Now I have 30 minutes. Now where should I put it? Oh, well, you know what? That actually opens up 30 minutes for me to do better in maybe like reporting or some kind of stage that like you just don't like and you can actually commit more time to it. Oh, maybe I don't like following up for referrals, and now that I have 30 minutes, now I can follow up for referrals. Or, now that I have this 30 minutes, I really hated um list building, or I really hated doing following up with leads that were that nothing really happened with, right? I just want to because you focus on something else maybe. So using that time that you get to focus on trouble spots or challenge areas, and to use that time effectively. And then so that would maybe be a good topic for like another event where I go into how to utilize that information, which I can do. Um, Actually, when I don't even know when you sent this, 1605 13. Oh, which is I think now. But anyway, I hope I answered your question. Essentially, if you get saved time from cutting down your system that you use day to day, the go-to is to, okay, cool, well, how do I maximize, how do I commit this saved time to either a part of the stage that I'm having trouble in. Or you may say, I actually need this 30 minutes to myself, because maybe you find that if you logged, for example, you taking an extra 30-minute break in the day, and you tracked that, and you found that that 30 minutes actually helps my performance more when I'm just taking a 30-minute breather and I'm just chilling out listening to music as like a second break of the day, and then I go back into work, versus putting it towards the trouble area. you know it really depends, and so you kind of have to plug and play with that time, and see where it benefits you the most, right? Because again, as much as you're taking care of the system, making sure the system is running its best, you also have to make sure that you're running, you're operating yourself at your best. um, and so that's what I would say about that. That's a really good question, actually. All right, I'm still here, still answering questions. And I'm pretty sure this will show up as a video too. So hopefully it does. All right. Well, you know what? Without further ado, actually, we're approaching 59 minutes here. For everybody who's actually still in it with us, which may be one and somebody else, I appreciate everybody who may be watching this at the end of this clip as I finish it, or it's finished already. But I appreciate everybody for coming through and checking out my presentation. If you do want anything in terms of the slides, or extra resources, feel free to reach out to me. My email and information is in the description of this video. And I will talk to you guys another time in another event. Enjoy your Monday, and I'll talk to you later.